Welcome to Xbox On, where today we just have to tell you all about 11 games that look especially incredible on the Xbox Series S. Firstly, let's kick things off with a game where pristine visuals are actually kind of a mixed blessing, because the more detail you actually see in Resident Evil Village, the more you wish you hadn't looked in the first place. The Transylvanian village in which the game takes place is divided into 4 factions, each run by a horrifying mutant overlord. So wherever you go, you're trespassing on ground that belongs to a giant vampire lady, or a werewolf clan, or something else completely terrible. The overall sense of dread is driven home by the game's gorgeous visuals, with an astonishing amount of detail in every inch of its haunting world. The ray tracing mode, which is fully available on the Xbox Series S, is especially appreciated in a game filled with things lurking in the dark. And while your hands might be shaking the whole way through, the 60 frames per second mode guarantees that the game itself will keep things very steady.
From smart delivery to FPS boost, the Series S is bursting with features designed to enhance your favorite games, even as you check out all the latest offerings. The Legendary Edition of the acclaimed Mass Effect trilogy goes even further, with a complete graphical overhaul that makes this far and away the definitive edition of Commander Shepard's story. These spacefaring action RPGs are regarded as 3 of the finest games ever made, thanks to the richly detailed galaxy they crafted and the thrilling story they told within it. It's such an immersive world that you quickly find yourself really caring about the people, robots, and strange rhino-looking guys that live there. With the improved textures, models, lighting effects, and a sweet 60 FPS frame rate, it's even more immersive than before. And even though we're bigging up the Series S in this video, it's worth mentioning that the Series X is the only console on the market that this title can run up to 120 FPS on as well. Pretty sweet, right?
Outriders takes place on a distant planet which was supposed to be humanity's new home, but which turned out to have, well, let's say other ideas. From the human inhabitants to the great winged creatures screeching through the skies, pretty much everything that lives here should be considered hostile. Like, really hostile. In this kind of environment, it's vital that you can see everything as clearly as possible, especially when the action hots up. Fortunately, thanks to Outriders' 4K 60 performance on the Series S, it stays crystal clear and flawlessly smooth even when there are 4 of you firing bullets, popping off fires, and causing earthquakes in all directions possible. It's available now on Xbox Game Pass, so subscribers can get it on this beautifully rendered apocalypse without spending an extra penny.
As soon as you step off your longboat and get ready to wade into Ubisoft's latest semi-historical adventure, there are plenty of choices to be made. You'll have to decide what sort of warrior you want to be, going in like a true Viking with a big axe and a mighty yell, or sticking to the more traditional Assassin's Creed playbook and getting sneaky in the shadows. You'll have to decide which of the other highly dangerous characters you want to make nice with and which ones you're happy to square off with. So it's fitting that you'll also get to choose how best to maximize your Series S experience, with the game offering both a performance mode that keeps the 60 FPS frame rate steady even in the heat of battle, or a resolution mode which really lets you appreciate each bristle on the characters' beards, because choice is always the most important thing in your gaming life. And thanks to the latest DLC, Wrath of the Druids, you can also choose to sally over to Ireland and cause some mischief there as well.
While the Series S's seriously graphical power is great for games that strive for photorealism, it's also ideal for those whose entire grip on reality is a bit looser? Everything in Borderlands 3 is kind of deranged, really. From the wild cast of characters you'll encounter as you shoot and loot your way to glory, to the absolutely ridiculous amount of guns you can blast your way through. Which is why its cel-shady aesthetic is such a perfect fit, creating a world that's realistic enough to feel visceral and immersive, but just cartoony enough that you don't feel too bad about all the spectacular murders you're committing. And now that it's been optimized for the Series S, it runs at a slick 60 frames per second all the way through and boasts textures and effects which are pretty much on par with any other next-gen machine. By the way, play it in couch co-op, it's seamless, the split. Wow.
After the explosive end to Season 2, free-to-play Call of Duty Warzone is back with another round of fast-paced battle royale action. This time, Verdansk has been given an 80s makeover, which makes it ripe for the addition of iconic action heroes like John Rambo. And playing on the Series S is the perfect way to capture the glitz and glamour of the big screen. The game now runs at up to an astonishing 120 FPS on the all-digital next-gen machine. Plus, the console is already the most affordable bit of kit on the market. Combine that with the fact you no longer even need an Xbox Live Gold subscription for free-to-play games, and Warzone gives you an incredible amount of bang for your buck. It's also the perfect title for such a ramped-up frame rate, perfect for the sort of smooth performance that allows true marksmen to make the most of their abilities. And for those of us who don't have that particular set of skills, it means we get to enjoy running around inside a pretty video game during the brief moments in between deaths. So everybody wins.
Destiny 2 is another shooter that looks fantastic on the new console, with a tidy 60 frames per second frame rate to keep things steady while you're battling across the Milky Way. The next-gen version of the game also allows you to adjust your field of view, fine-tuning the display to help you line up your shots with devilish precision. Game Pass players can pick up the game with its DLC and extra content at no additional cost, while Smart Delivery makes it super easy for seasoned players to move seamlessly onto a new console if they're upgrading from the Xbox One generation. And if you jump in now, you'll be just in time for the season of the Splicer, which we're sure isn't nearly as intimidating as it sounds. In short, if you're looking to battle for the fate of the human race and want to look good doing it, the Series S version of Destiny 2 is just the ticket. Although we'd be remiss if we didn't add that the 120 frames per second Crucible mode on the Series X is also an absolute slam dunk.
Set in the Yakuza universe, Judgement has you once again working your way through the bright lights and shady characters of Kamurocho. Only this time you're playing as a private detective rather than a semi-invincible gangster, so a little more finesse is required. Tailing suspects, searching for clues, and picking locks are all skills you'll need to master to get to the bottom of the game's central mystery. Don't worry though, you'll still get to kick people in the face too. With refined visuals, faster load times, and a 60 FPS frame rate, this might be the best Kamurocho has ever looked. And our detective work also informs us that its equally lush-looking sequel has been announced for later this year, so it's a good time to be a gumshoe. On the other hand, if you feel like organized crime is still the more fruitful career path, you'll find the entire original Yakuza story available on Xbox Game Pass.
If you're looking to have your own skills really tested while you're checking out what your new console can do, Remnant from the Ashes is a perfect way to go. This shooter RPG drops you down in a post-apocalyptic world where each map is randomly generated to make sure that you absolutely never get comfortable. The loot you'll find is similarly randomized, so survival here is always an uphill battle, even if you tag in a friend or two to fight alongside you in co-op. At least if you play on the Series S, you'll now have a 60 frames per second frame rate to work with thanks to a shiny new update. That should make it a little easier to pick off the forces of evil before they've torn you limb from limb, but only a little, it's not too much.
Warframe is an online action RPG where you play as one of the Tenno, an ancient warrior race who are awoken after centuries of slumber to find that Earth is now at war with factions from across the galaxy and that they've got some serious work to do. Crazy how much things change. And that's kind of true for the game itself too. In the 8 years since it was first launched, Warframe has constantly evolved and expanded. From open world areas and more story-centric missions to a factory line of new gear, weapons, and vehicles. The battlefield which you run, parkour flip, and battle your way through never stays the same for long. With its latest update, it all looks fit for the strange new era of next-gen gaming as well. With a 4K 60 display that balances pristine resolution with flawless frame rate, Warframe is now a truly futuristic experience.
Finally, there's the game which has long been the watermark for graphical excellence. I am of course talking about Crysis. This sci-fi shooter puts you inside a high-tech nanosuit and sends you off to battle aliens in North Korea. There are good reasons for all of that, we're sure, but it's likely that you'll also be so busy gawking at the sheer gorgeousness of the game itself that you won't really pay attention to them. The remastered edition of the game was already enough to make it look cutting edge all over again, but thanks to a next-gen update, the version you can now download on your Series S pushes things even further. Just as your nanosuit allows you to flit between all sorts of high-tech madness with the flick of a switch, Crysis also allows you to choose between a performance mode that gives the game a 60 frames per second speed boost or a ray tracing option for those of you who just want to watch the light bounce delicately off the environment around them, before blasting it to oblivion, naturally.
This is just a taste of what the Series S can do. There are already a ton more gorgeous games available to download, with plenty more on the way. So if you're looking for games that will make your eyes water and a price tag that won't, the Series S is the perfect answer. Make sure to let us know in the comments what you think the best looking Series S games are, and don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell for more tips, hints and news. And if you felt like hitting the like button too, we certainly won't stop you, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye!